Good day, this 275th day, meaningful moments, 365 days. So yesterday I mentioned to you that I was going to be talking to you a little bit about just the after effects, the aftermath of having gone through a detox and a cleanse, and sharing with you a little bit about that. Because so often we're really intrigued and fascinated and interested in hearing what people are doing to do that kind of a cleanse or detox, and often it's associated with losing weight and just overall having a better sense of well-being. And I just want to share with you a couple of things now that it's going on, let's see, about almost a month since the deepening part of that over 30-day type of change in the way we eat. Started out with a 21-day cleanse and then went into a 10-day intense detoxification. And then it's been several weeks where it's been a slow reintroduction of different types of foods. So the first food we brought back in was dairy in very small amounts. And then we brought in a little bit of gluten. And now we've brought in a little bit of corn. And just items that different food products that we really enjoyed. Like we're not going to be returning to a bunch of snacky kinds of foods, but some wonderful organic blue corn chips and salsa are always a nice tasty treat. So we try to reintroduce things that we could see ourselves maybe wanting to have, like a little bit of cheese or a nice loaf of freshly baked sourdough bread, a homemade bread that might be made, especially with fall and zucchini, carrot cakes, and all those kinds of things. But really being mindful of that sugar intake, because that was one of the things that we eliminated too, as well as really decreasing the amounts of animal protein all around, whether it's egg or cheeses, milks, things like that, any animal protein. So that's including the fish and the chicken, which are considered also meats, just not red meats, but all of those, still having those in very small amounts. And when I say small amounts, I mean like 4 to 6 ounces max, and still heavily plant-based being the main meal. So opposite of what we think in our Western culture and American diets, where the meat is the main course and then you have a little bit of some sides around it. This is kind of the opposite of that. And so far it's going really well. And I was joking about it, talking about the aftermath of it all, because it's a process that you undergo. And for us, it wasn't a process so much of losing weight, but really about being able to detoxify not just like our gut flora and our digestive system, but also our brain, to really detox our brain. So that was the other very important component. And it was also necessary to see what the body did, how it responded to all of this. And of course, when I talk about sugar, I did a whole live on this, which is found in our starchy foods or carbohydrates. If you have wine or a beer or whatever that is, all of those things convert into sugar. So just how we look to limit that, that includes your breads, and I mean, the list goes on in places you don't necessarily think sugar are in, but it is. And of course, any kind of sweeteners, so we've learned how to really enjoy a good cup of coffee, and you'll really notice the difference when you have a good coffee bean, or, teas, to be able to have them with no sweetener at all, and just enjoy those flavors, and how to cook more with spices for that flavorful taste that you seek, and how to do different types of vinaigrettes and dressings and all those kinds of things, so that you can really limit that, we can really limit that kind of sugar intake all around. And of course, dessert kinds of things. What other kinds of ways can we create desserts to enjoy something that might have a little bit of sweetness to it, but even cutting back on relying on root vegetables like carrot to give us our sweet, or to rely on grapes, or what, even the foods that are in season, like a watermelon, which is now ending, but all of that kind of fruits with high sugar index, and just limiting and cutting way back on those, and choosing other kinds of fruits that don't have as high of a sugar index. So what was most notable, and what I wanted to share in this aftermath, so to speak, is that it wasn't necessarily, like I said, about losing weight, but inevitably we both lost a lot of weight. And I'm talking about stubborn areas where I've been rather fit most of my life and enjoying activity. And there were stubborn areas that I just could not seem to lose the fat or the cellulose in those little areas. And of course, as you get older, your body changes from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50, etc. And I'm close to 60 now, and just really watching like the skin change, the cellulite go away, or the cellulose underneath the skin to go away, those stubborn areas just like shed away, just drop away. And I would say that this is not just combined with foods, but also really relating it to body, mind, and soul. So not just the body and the intake, but also what kind of self-care practices that involved a soulful type of connection and expression, and how, we became more aware of our thought processes and how we engage with patterns, like associating this event with this kind of food or eating this kind of way. For instance, my husband does like to watch a football game from not every now and then, but the way it's associated for, let's say, a lot of Americans, that means having beer and chili and whatever the fall season brings on and the football season relates to in that kind of way. And we do it for all kinds of things, birthdays, celebrations, all kinds of things. And we are firm believers that we didn't want to feel like a denial and we couldn't do this or that, but we had to look for alternative, healthy ways to engage and to apply moderation in a thoughtful way, in a way that felt true and real, and how to overall change the impact of a lifestyle and eating, and how we associate food more now with nutrition, the actual value of it. And you can't separate that into like, these are the carbs and this is the sodium, and over here this is where you're going to get some of the vitamins, and over here this is how it's going to affect your calories or whatever that is. It's all whole, it's holistic. And that's the part that I think a lot of people miss when they focus on certain aspects of keto, even though ketosis is a very powerful tool and definitely involved in the cleanse that we did. But whether it's focusing on the keto or focusing, okay, we're going to just do a calorie intake watch, or we're going to reduce just the sugar, it's really whole. And it's this whole way of approaching, a holistic way of approaching well-being. So that's the important piece that I wanted to share in the aftermath, is integrating that further into all parts of the way we live and the way we connect with that sustainability of our systems. And the other part of it is just, I wanted to say, besides the shedding of the fats in the body and burning the right kind of fats for fuel and fuel for the brain, and the clarity that came was just the reduction of inflammation, which I absolutely think is a big part of why we have such a high obesity rate here in America. And the inflammation was pronounced. And as we reintroduce foods, we're very careful to watch what that reaction is, introducing them slowly, 1 week at a time, looking to see what the combinations are, or reducing it to more of a singular reintroduction, whether it's like a gluten item, even though we're going to probably remain a little much more gluten-free and choose other types of definitely organic as much as we can all the way around, and then definitely reduce the wheat overall. And that has to do with the introduction of what happened in agriculture and wheat, just like corn is now too. And you just can't get foods that aren't genetically modified at this time that we live in, and that's just the reality of what's out there. And the depleted soils and the rainfall that's coming, and how there's just depletion as far as nutrients go all around, and how all of those depletions also inadvertently affect or I'd say adversely affect our gut flora as well. So this is just an overhaul overall, and I've heard people recently ask me, like, how did it go, or are you back to eating normal, and those kinds of things. And I don't know what normal is or isn't, only that we evolve and we learn and we grow, and hopefully out of that growth and evolution we can look for a new way that serves us better. And that's the improved version of ourselves. And isn't that what it all comes back down to as we journey through this life? And with that, my friends, the aftermath and all the effects, and in this case, the positive way it's affected us. Aho on your journey of well-being.